Good morning. I'm Joe Williams, Senior News Editor for U.S. News and World Report, and I'd like to welcome you to our discussion on summer learning programs during the COVID-19 pandemic. As a journalist, I write about social determinants of health, that is, the everyday factors that keep us from being healthy and health of the individuals that research consistently shows education is a big factor. Meaning the more education you have and the higher the quality, the healthier you and your family are likely to be. We're here today to tackle an urgent question for parents, educators, and students. With summer camps and after-school programs being canceled nationwide because of the COVID-19 crisis, what will this summer hold for America's students? How can they and their parents navigate such an uncertain landscape, and what can they expect going forward? In our 90-minute discussion, we'll explore a national view of summer, including research, policy, the funding landscape, and equity issues. We'll also take a look at the community perspective, looking at creative summer solutions emerging from coast to coast. We'll also focus on tips and strategies for helping students and parents find programs that meet their needs. For more than 25 years, the National Summer Learning Association, NSLA for short, has led a movement to focus national attention on why summers matter, particularly for some of America's most vulnerable students. That mission is now more important than ever, especially at this defining moment in education and in history. Throughout this discussion, you can email your questions to press@summerlearning.org, and members of the media, if you have any follow-up questions or if you'd like to get in contact with any of the panelists or get more information, you can use the same email to reach out to NSLA's press office. Now I'd like to introduce my co-host, Aaron Philip Dworkin, CEO of the National Summer Learning Association. Aaron?
Thank you, Joe, and welcome to everyone who is listening. We're so appreciative that you're with us today. I also want to just thank quickly our key sponsors who've helped make this event possible, including the Wallace Foundation, the National Academy of Sciences, the American Camp Association, National League of Cities, along with the many wonderful experts and partner groups that you'll be hearing from later today. As Joe mentioned, NSLA has been around for 25 years. Our mission is to combat summer learning loss and close the achievement and opportunity gaps which grow over the summer months. But also our vision is to ensure that every young person in America, regardless of their background or their income or their zip code, can access and participate in a high-quality summer learning experience every single year, and those experiences can include something local at their school district library, parks and rec, or public housing, or possibly further away from their community at a summer camp or a college campus or a travel experience. And as they get older, it can include a summer job and an internship. These are the experiences we want to explore. These are the experiences we want to provide. I recently had the chance to have a conversation with two young people, first-generation college students who were looking to get a first-ever summer internship experience in Washington, D.C. with their congressman, Elaine in Delaware, Cameron in South Carolina. And when we interviewed them, they mentioned both that it was their summer experiences in high school that helped them figure out how to navigate high school, go to college, and put them in position to access those internships. So the value of these experiences you're going to hear about matter, and they matter more than ever now in this COVID-19 reality, where 56 million students are home, parents are working and trying to struggle to navigate how to keep their jobs going and help their children, and they're trying to figure out what will happen in the coming school year. These are the experiences and challenges the summer learning field has been tackling for years. We think we have a lot of insights and solutions and best practices to share that can not only be useful for this coming summer, but be extrapolated and applied to the coming year that we'll see. So with all that said, I would just like to talk about that we are going to be hearing initially from Carl Alexander, a professor from Johns Hopkins University, who is one of the commissioners on the National Academy's Summertime research report that we want to share. And then we will take it away and explore some of the issues that have been brought up in that report. Carl?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So our press briefing was supposed to have happened on March 24th. Bad timing, to be sure. Instead, here we are during the actual launch of summer rather than in anticipation of it. It's a summer like no other, of course, and our plans have had to change accordingly. The National Academy's report that Aaron mentions was supposed to be the focus. With support from the Wallace and Robert Wood Johnson Foundations, it undertook a thoroughgoing evidence-based assessment of how the summer break from school impacts children's development, centering on our nation's neediest families and their children. So what is it about the summer months that warranted a year's hard work by the committee and your consideration today? I'd like to give you an example close to home. There's a 20-year difference in life expectancy across Baltimore's wealthiest and poorest communities, a difference that also overlaps lines of race. My wife and I live downtown by the water. It's the best of big city living. But walk just 15 minutes north and you're in one of Baltimore's most distressed communities, where the poverty rate, the unemployment rate, and the crime rates are all high. The vast majority of people living in this neighborhood, and in others like it throughout the country, are decent folk, to use Elijah Anderson's characterization. People like you and me in terms of what they want out of life and for their children, but they're without the means to reach those goals. For too many children, the summer break isn't just welcome relief from the drudgery of school, it's a time of elevated risk. They may not have a safe space for outdoor play. If they live in food deserts, nutrition meals are hard to come by. Daycare options may be limited, and the best summer programs beyond their means. The same holds for things like organized sports, dance lessons, day trips, family vacations, in-house learning resources, and a host of other enrichment activities that my children could take for granted, but that their children could not. And now, 3 months away from school is stretched to 6 with practically no time to plan. The pandemic has made the issues taken up by our report even more urgent and more challenging. So with that introduction, I'd like to hand it over to Joe Williams for our first panel discussion.
Thank you, Carl, for those important remarks. And as Carl mentioned, summer matters now more than ever, and educators across the country are in agreement. The months out of school not only provide a respite from the day-to-day work of education, it also can offer opportunities for social and academic growth, but at the same time put children who are in high-risk communities at risk for worse outcomes. That's according to our report, Shaping Summertime Experiences, Opportunities to Promote Healthy and Development and Well-Being for Children and Youth, recently released by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. So we'll kick off today's discussion with a conversation on the state of summer and talk a little bit about what might be out there. With that, I'll ask the distinguished panelists to introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Jillian Balo, and I am Wyoming State Superintendent of Public Instruction. I am also the current president for the Council of Chief State School Officers, or CCSSO, which is the organization that supports state education chiefs across the nation. As such, every president has the opportunity to select a platform for which to advocate during the course of their presidential term and afterward. And my predecessor, Pedro Rivera from Pennsylvania, focused on just building equity in certain areas. And I felt it was important to continue that work. And my platform is Beyond the Bell. We are focused on partnerships. Little did I know when that platform was elected that the pandemic would happen and that summer learning programs and Beyond the Bell programs would become so front and center. It is an honor to join the group. It is an honor to be part of this distinguished panel, and I look forward to the discussion.
Good morning. I'm Eric Peterson. I'm the Senior Vice President for Policy at the After School Alliance. The After School Alliance is a national nonprofit organization, about 20 years old, based in Washington, D.C., that really works to ensure that all youth have access to affordable, quality after school and summer learning programs. And I, too, am looking forward to the discussion this morning.
Good morning, everyone. This is Tangi Reed Marshall from the Education Trust. I'm the Director of Practice for the Education Trust. At the Education Trust, we focus on stemming the impact of inequities for all students, and particularly students of color and those whose families are experiencing poverty. We seek advocacy, policy, and work with partners across the nation to ensure all students get an equitable education. And so excited to be part of this great panel this morning.
Thanks, Joe. My name's Chris Smith. I'm Executive Director of Boston After School and Beyond. We work with the City of Boston, the Boston Public Schools, and over 300 after school and summer programs serving 25,000 kids. And our aim collectively is to ensure that young people have the skills they need to succeed, not only in school, but also college, work, and life. We are proud to be part of the Wallace Foundation's 5-city study on summer learning. which showed that participants gained an advantage in academics and social emotional skills. And it's great to be with you today.
And good morning. My name is Rachel Thornton. I'm a practicing general pediatrician and an associate professor of pediatrics at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine and Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. I had the privilege of serving alongside Carl, Chris, and others on the National Academy of Sciences ad hoc study committee that produced the Shaping Summertime Experiences report. It's really a privilege to be here today. Thank you.
Great. Well, it's a fantastic panel. We're all happy to have you here. Drs. Thornton and Chris, I want to kick off the discussion with you guys. You guys were both members of the National Academy of Science Commission, and you helped assemble this new report. Give us an overview. What are the broad themes here, and what can we expect from your report going forward?
Absolutely. So I guess I'll kick us off with the academic perspective, and then Chris can elaborate from there. The report was really focused on understanding how summertime experiences affect school-age children, so rising kindergarten through 12th graders across 4 areas of well-being: academic learning and enrichment, social and emotional development, physical and mental health, and safety. So, I think others have already aptly stated, this report, in fact, is probably more relevant now than ever, even though it was issued in 2019 before the start of this pandemic. There's a lot that we do not know about how summertime shapes children's well-being, but in our study, here's what we were able to summarize that we do know. First of all, that high-quality summertime experiences that are developmentally appropriate can be leveraged to positively impact children's well-being. But these experiences are not equally available everywhere, and they're not equally available to every child and family who wants to take advantage of them. So I'm going to summarize 3 key takeaways from the report that I think are really relevant to today. First is that meeting basic developmental needs of children, that means access to adequate nutritious food and a safe, developmentally appropriate environment, is a critical precondition for the success of any summertime experience on child outcomes. Second, summertime is fragmented. No single sector has primary accountability for children in summertime. And so many services children receive and rely on through school settings can be disrupted or absent. This fragmentation can have disproportionate negative impacts on children living in less advantageous circumstances and in lower socioeconomic status families and families with fewer economic resources. So a focus on equity really is an essential component of realizing the full possibility of summertime. And then third, there's a lack of systematic attention to creating high quality summertime experiences for some of the most vulnerable children. This includes children in detention, in foster care, or in the justice system. And in general, the agencies responsible for the supervision, detention, and custodial care of these children lack system-wide approaches to providing them with high-quality summertime experiences. So making summertime a season of healthy development and possibility for all children through ensuring basic developmental needs and investing in coordinated and equitable access to high-quality experiences is really critical. And this can leverage community assets and priorities. And it's really the key to unleashing the full possibility of summertime in the interest of promoting the health and well-being of all children.
Interesting. Chris, I want to throw it to you, and I want you to give us the perspective from a city like Boston, a major metropolitan area that has a lot of challenges and probably a pretty significant need for summertime programs.
Yes, and we've been at this for about 10 years on a citywide basis. As Dr. Thornton mentioned, there's fragmentation in the summertime. Nobody takes full responsibility for it. In Boston, that's been an opportunity. I mentioned that our network includes a wide variety of school and nonprofit partners. In the summertime, it's 170 programs reaching nearly 14,000 young people. And that includes everything from the Harbor Islands to the Blue Hills and college campuses, workplaces, and neighborhood nonprofits in between. And we come together around a shared effort like summer learning. you're able to draw on the expertise, the strengths, and the resources of a wide variety of players all around common goals. We're focused around a set of skills such as critical thinking, communication, teamwork, and perseverance that binds these otherwise disparate programs. And the result is that young people are in the care of positive adults. They're learning. They're becoming more curious by learning something they weren't engaged in before. And they come back in the short term more ready for school, but possibly in the longer term with greater aspirations about who they can become. So this report hits home on a number of fronts when you look at the need to ensure the safety, health, continued education, and skill development of young people. One way we took this to heart simultaneous with the report is that Boston is a proud top 100 solution in the MacArthur Foundation's 100 and Change initiative. So this is a worldwide competition of ideas, and our city put forth the idea of, what if we made high quality summer work and learning an expectation rather than the exception for young people?
Right, that's very important. And you raise some conversations about equity issues. I mean, you're talking about having to do a lot with less, and particularly this year, it's going to be especially challenging. So on the state and equity level, I'd like to bring in Dr. Tanji Reed Marshall of the Education Trust and Jillian Balow of CCSSO. Jillian, start us off here. What does this current landscape look like at a state level? And talk a little bit more about the Beyond the Bell initiative and how that's going to factor into play in the summertime. Do you see that role changing at all with COVID-19 on the horizon?
Great. Well, thanks for that great question. It's a wonderful opportunity to just interject what the policy conversation is at the state level that hopefully helps roll out the notion that Beyond the Bell learning, summer learning opportunities should be more the expectation and not the exception. I like the way that that's worded. So as state chiefs, what our job really is to do is to help build a framework for local success. I think everyone on this call can agree that the very best and most high quality programs for summer learning and out of school learning are those that are supported at the community level, those that are supported by both school districts and other service providers within a community. So as state chiefs, our job right now is to really look at the opportunities that Beyond the Bell learning, including summer learning, can provide and help remove barriers and build policy and provide guidance for not only school districts and learning programs, but also for the communities at large. And so you are seeing state chiefs across the nation right now roll that exactly out. For some states, that looks like policy recommendations for the local level, maybe some rules, but the landscape has changed for all students across America. We have lost 3 months of learning, and that's probably not something that in an equitable way we can get back just within the school day. So we must look to Beyond the Bell learning opportunities to not only fill those gaps, but to provide different types of learning, asynchronous learning, competency-based learning, experiential learning, and those that are really associated with Beyond the Bell or summer learning programs, and really elevate those in partnership with school districts so that more students, especially the most vulnerable and at-risk students, those that we often identify on high-stakes assessments and data reports, and that they have the greatest access to high-quality programs during the summer. So again, I'm just kind of circling back to that statewide framework. Every state looks a little bit different, but all state chiefs agree that that our job is to look at Beyond the Bell learning opportunities, summer learning opportunities, and figure out how to leverage those within a policy framework, whether that's something for local communities to consider and we support them, whether that's a recommendation or whether that's a requirement. And that's where where it looks different from state to state. But removing barriers and being that influencer and kind of that broker and connector is definitely a role that all state chiefs play in this important topic.
And Tanji, we know that this summer we're going to be facing school districts that have fewer resources, programs that are closing because they don't have the money, and that has the potential to exacerbate the so-called summer slide. Are we looking at something different here? Are we looking at something a lot more significant than the typical summer slide, particularly when it comes to communities of color that tend to have access issues on top of this? Now we're facing a different landscape. Talk to us about that.
So thank you for that, and I really appreciate the opportunity to join this again. One thing we know is that when the story of this particular summer is told and the story of this school year is told, it's going to be a story of exacerbated inequities, as you stated. What we know is that the naturally occurring disparities between groups and among groups is going to exacerbate. What we have, though, as Superintendent Balow has said, is an opportunity to look at what exists and figure out how to make what we have available better available to all students across the country. And so what we have to ask our states and our districts to do is to look at the funds that they are getting. So we know that the CARES Act made funds available that could be used for summer and extended learning. We also know that beyond the bell learning is still learning. And so what we have then is an opportunity to look at the types of learning that happen, right? So we know that this year presented us with unfinished learning. So unfinished instruction, unfinished teaching, unfinished learning on the child's part. We know that. And so when we think about the growing disparities that these unfinished instructional practices present, we have to look at summer as an opportunity to bridge the gap between what has been unfinished and what still needs to be learned and what can be new learning. And as has already been said, summer learning presents opportunities for students to have their regular learning sort of enhanced, but then also they can have the opportunity for new learning, more experiential learning. And so as we go through the summer, we want to make sure that students have equitable access in terms of quantity, and then equitable access in terms of the quality of the types of resources and programming that's going to be available through a variety of means that are both contextually and content driven, because students still need to have high quality, they still need to be motivated and engaging practices and content so that they can go back when school buildings reopen and not be as far behind as the predictions have now been set forth in lots of the reports that are coming out. So we have to take a broad view of this idea and think more carefully and strategically about how we support families in the most economically distressed environments and students of color that we know tend to be on the shorter end of the resource list.
Right, that's very important. And the next question in the time we have left, Eric, I want to turn to you and get you to talk about the funding landscape. So much of this program and so much of these experiences revolve around money. Yes, there is money in the COVID-19 relief package, but we see charities pulling back a little bit more. We see states having budget crunches. Talk to us about what the landscape is going to look like going forward and if there are going to be challenges on that front.
Thank you. Absolutely. So there is, as was mentioned, funding in the CARES Act, both for state education agencies. There was about a little over $13 billion that can be used for summer, but there's also a wide range of other uses and activities that those funds can be put to it, and needs as well. So for online learning, still finishing out the school year in some communities, as well as mental health supports and a variety of other supports, which certainly can be part of a comprehensive summer learning program. There was also about $3 billion for amongst all 50 governors, and those funds can be used as well. It's at the governor's discretion. So there are some supports that Congress appropriated back in late March when they, in bipartisan fashion, passed the CARES Act. I should also note in that bill there was $3.5 billion for Child Care Development Block Grant, and so those funds can be used for children ages 0 all the way up to 13, so school age as well. And some states are getting creative about the use of blending those funds. But to your point, absolutely going to be challenges moving forward as the primary source of education funding in this country is the state and local level. And we know that state budgets different from state to state, but tremendous challenges now and moving forward into the summer and the fall as to what the funding sources for those states are, and the local level as well. So as was mentioned by Superintendent Balow, local partners, so community-based organizations, but also Parks and Rec and libraries are sort of key to this ecosystem that helps support quality summer learning programs. And the funding for those programs as well at the local government level is challenged right now, as well as you mentioned, the nonprofit and fee-based programs where children have been home with parents. Those programs are struggling. So there are a tremendous amount of challenges, but reiterate the opportunity is there as well. And it's often in these kinds of challenges where everyone will come together and be able to braid and blend resources in a way that hopefully provides quality program and quality summer learning for children most in need.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of work to do in this area. I'd like to thank our panelists for laying out the landscape. It sounds like in a time of challenges, there are also opportunities. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing more from you about how summer is going to proceed as we go on.
Joe?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so what do you make of that, Aaron? I mean, it sounds like there are lots and lots of challenges ahead of us, but that there are potential opportunities of growth. I mean, what they're talking about in terms of funding, I think, is really the core here. What would you think?
Well, I think we heard great insights from all our panelists. I believe, and these are all national leaders working together, but I think what we've identified is that we have a lot of piecemeal strategies going on across the country, a lot of good intentioned leaders and programs and policies all over, and what we're looking for is a much more coordinated effort in this time and to figure out how to give the funding that's necessary to implement and get the resources and training to the right staff and to all the right folks on the ground who are working directly with young people. But I think there's a need. We're all identifying some of the challenges, but the theme is everyone understands there's a huge opportunity before us that we have to seize.
Right, and I think that people kind of have a misperception of what summer is about and what these summer activities are about, in that they see kids go off to camp, they see them learn how to sail, they see them learn how to do these different things, but there is learning involved in a lot of this, isn't there?
Absolutely, and I think what we've all been talking and holding up as best practices are summer learning programs that are intentional, providing disguised learning, they're structured, they're creating mentoring relationships through the counselors with the students and the staff and the students, and so and they're getting exposed to so many new things that they wouldn't have exposure to during the school year,
right.
And they're able to make connections for when they go back to these new skills, these new passions, and now all of a sudden the academic learning makes more sense and becomes more valuable for them.
Right. Now, how worried are you personally about this yawning gap between this void that has happened at the end of the school year and all these challenges that summer programs are facing? Are you concerned that more kids will fall through the cracks here, or are you more concerned about making sure that there is a smooth transition from summer to fall?
I think we're concerned about all of the above.
All of the above, yeah.
The answer is there's a lot of there's been some research from partners NWEA saying that the COVID-19 learning loss compounds obviously what we're going to see typically from summer learning loss.
So you've got two learning losses on top of each other.
Yes, because there's an extended time out of school, or as Karen Pittman says, out of school time is all the time, and she's a big leader in our field. And so the question now is how not to take just such a short-term response. We have to get ready for this coming summer now, but to also realize that we're going to be making up this time for a couple of years going forward. And so we want to think about 2020, but be strategic and intentional about the summer of 2021 as well.
Mm-hmm. Right, so there are huge challenges out there. We've got a lot of things to perceive. What about parents? What can parents do to help ease the transition here? Or is it all on after-school programs?
No. This is always a partnership between parents and programs and the students themselves and all the policymakers as well. But we are going to have a panel later on this to talk about some of the tools and resources that are being made available to parents, and we have some experts on that topic. But we want to help them and not overwhelm them. And we want to make sure that they have all the guidance and resources that they can use and empower them to make sure their students are learning. But I'll just say that I think we need to understand we can't do it all at once. And people should do bite-sized chunks and focus on how to get healthy, how to, what they need to do to focus on their weaknesses or their strengths academically, find a skill and a career, and also service, as we're going to hear. How do you give back to others in this time?
Yeah, that's very important, particularly in a state like Maryland where service is a requirement of graduation. I'm hearing that that's popping up in other states.
Absolutely. So I think now, Joe, we want to go to our second panel. Thank you for all those first panel folks who were with us. But now we want to take it from the national level down a little bit closer to the ground and hear examples of what's happening this summer and in programs in different communities. And I feel very fortunate that we're going to hear a little bit some of both the challenges and some of the solutions being put forward, including challenges around summer meals and how hunger is an important issue that we all have to address, what summer camps can do specifically, some of summer youth employment as well. So I'd like to just introduce let our panelists introduce themselves. Start with Robin. If you could go ahead, Robin, and just share who you are and your organization. I don't know if she's hearing me. All right. Well, we have Robin Berlinski from ECM. She runs a wonderful STEM and arts program. She'll be hopefully able to join us. Dr. Lori Brown from ACA, will you be able to share about your organization? People not hearing me? Well, I want to just make sure, hopefully we'll figure this out. I can introduce everyone, but I want to make sure people can hear me. So we have Robin Berlinski, we'll have Dr. Lori Brown, we have Clarissa Hayes from the Food Research Action Council, we have Fatima Shama, the head of the Fresh Air Fund, and Bella Spooner from the National League of Cities. I'd love to be able to open up our conversation. If my panelists can hear me, can you give me a thumbs up?
I'm getting word that I was just introduced, but I don't have any sound, so I'm going to go ahead and hopefully you can hear me.
All right.
My name is Robin Berlinski, and I'm the Executive Director of Engaging Creative Minds, a nonprofit in Charleston, South Carolina. Our mission is to spark creativity and curiosity in all learners through innovative learning experiences. We work in 6 school districts, serving over 11,000 youth in kindergarten through 8th grade during the school year and summer in rural, urban, and suburban settings. We work with artists to teach STEM concepts through engaging learning experiences in dance, music, visual arts, and theater to learn about science, technology, engineering, and math. Engaging Creative Minds won the 2016 Excellence Award from NSLA. Woohoo! And I'm excited to share a bit more in a few minutes about how we are keeping a woohoo culture in all of our programs.
Thank you, Robin. Lori?
Hi, everybody. I'm Lori Brown. I'm the Director of Research for the American Camp Association. We are a national nonprofit whose mission is to foster summer learning and youth development through safe and high-quality summer camp experience. We are the national accrediting body for day and overnight camps and support over 10,000 youth development professionals through training, advocacy, research, and by building partnerships and systems so every child has access to safe and high quality summer camp experiences.
Thank you. Clarissa?
Great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Clarissa Hayes, and I'm a senior policy analyst at the Food Research Institute, more commonly known as FRAC. FRAC is a leading national nonprofit organization working to eradicate hunger and undernutrition in the United States. We definitely know that with the current environment, the need to support and expand participation in the federal nutrition programs is more important than ever to make sure children have a healthy summer and return to school in the fall ready to learn. So I'm just honored to be here with you all.
Great, thank you. Fatima?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fatima Shama, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Fresh Air Fund based here in New York City. We are over 140-year-old organization that started our mission during a public health crisis in New York in 1877, when tuberculosis was contagious and affecting too many young people in the tenement communities on the Lower East Side in New York City. 140 years later, we continue to be committed to providing life-changing summer experiences for children from New York City's under-resourced communities by connecting them to the outdoors. Then it was to breathe fresh air, and today it seems more important than ever to continue that focus. We serve thousands of children from New York City's low-income communities, and we provide two key summer outdoor adventures program areas. First, in our legacy model of connecting children to host families called our Friendly Towns program. And the second is through summer camping, overnight summer camping programming. We believe that investing in a child's journey through connecting kids to the outdoors can, in fact, provide a young person the opportunity to learn, to grow, and thrive, not only in our city, but quite honestly beyond. And so the magic of fresh air, summer, the magic of the experiences in the outdoors, new experiences, new friends, could be quite simple, but we know quite transformative, and in this time, more important than ever.
Thank you, Fatima. And Bella from National League of Cities?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I am Bella Shaw-Spooner. I'm the Program Director for Education and Expanded Learning at the National League of Cities. We call it NLC. So NLC is a membership organization that serves as the voice for cities, towns, and villages of all sizes, representing about 200 million people nationwide. So NLC covers all of the issues that cities care about. A huge range, as you can imagine. But I sit in our Institute for Youth Education and Families department, where we work to support mayors, city council members, senior city staff, their efforts to improve outcomes for children and youth along the education continuum, including after school, summer programs, city school partnerships, post-secondary, and workforce success. So happy to be with you guys today.
Okay. Thank you. So we are looking to all of you to kind of shed light on what's happening in local programs and communities, and maybe ways other folks who are listening in could be helpful or learn from you. I want to start with Clarissa, because the hunger issue in the summer is major. We're all talking about how to help low-income kids. A lot of students who are on the free and reduced lunch program during the school year and then don't have access to those meals during the summer months unless they're in a program typically. So Clarissa, could you just kind of describe the shape of the problem for us that we're seeing now, and then what's being done to address it and maybe how others can help?
Sure, of course. So like you mentioned, summer can really be a difficult time for low-income children who rely on free meals during the school year. We know that food insecurity historically spikes during the summer months when those school meals disappear. So what that means is that not only are kids experiencing summer learning loss, they're also not having their nutrition needs met, which means that they go back to school in the fall behind their peers. So fortunately, the federally funded summer nutrition programs do fill that gap. So these programs provide federal funding to programs to provide meals and snacks in low-income areas. And these sites can be anywhere in a community that's eligible. It can be a school, a Boys and Girls Club, a Parks and Rec, really wherever kids are congregating. So we know that these programs really do fill an important need. We do also know that they are only serving a fraction of that need. We also know that this summer will look a lot different than normal summers as far as summer nutrition program implementation goes. We see that early research shows food insecurity is doubling and even tripling among households with children during this time. And many families who weren't eligible for school meals will be now as a result of COVID-19. And just as some background for what we've been seeing during this time, when schools closed in March, many schools and other providers had to quickly step into action and implement emergency feeding programs, which looked very different than the school lunch and school breakfast and summer meals that you may be familiar with. Many had to really launch and change their program overnight. So it was really inspiring to see those different programs kind of step into action. So just a little bit more background to support social distancing and those policies that came about when this all came up in March. USDA, who administers and funds the programs, actually allowed many flexibilities that made it easier to serve meals during this time. So, for example, meals could be picked up and taken home. Parents and guardians could come to a site and pick up those meals without a child being present and take them home. And multiple days worth of meals could be picked up. So recognizing, of course, that it is potentially possible that these social distancing policies will have to stay in place, those flexibilities that I mentioned will actually be available through the summer. So the summer nutrition programs can really adapt to meet the need. Those programs that maybe aren't able to have kids come in person will be able to provide those meals to pick up and as a drive-through model. And then where programming is possible, those traditional summer nutrition programs will be an option. So these programs are up and running in every state at this time. So definitely, spreading the word, making sure communities know that they're eligible to participate has always been the main focus of our work and continues to be during this time. And then one other thing I will just touch on before I turn it back over to you is a new program that came about because of COVID-19 that is called Pandemic EBT. So this really allows states to place the value of a school lunch or school breakfast that was missed during the time of school closures onto an electronic benefit card that families can then use at a grocery store. So we know that this is a really important complement to the summer nutrition program. And as of today, 36 states have actually been approved to provide those benefits. So we know that we're definitely getting there, but many states are still missing out on this important benefit.
Thank you, Clarissa. And also we know that partners like No Kid Hungry have resources as well that folks can access, as well as you, to find those location sites where they can access those meals and go to pick them up. But thank you for that information. Now, Fatima, just to come back to you, fresh air is in your name, and we know how important it is for young people to get exercise, and especially young people to be in nature, and there's a lot of research to show all the learning benefits from those experiences. Can you just describe what you've seen through your work? Your organization's been around for so long, and some of the creative ideas of how you're promoting learning in the outdoors.
Yeah, I mean, you've just hit the nail on the head. The irony, of course, is that we have, before this moment, have been talking so much about the importance of facilitating outdoor play and the comparison between how much time kids have spent these days outside versus in front of screens. And for the last 10 weeks, kids have solely been in front of screens, and exacerbated certainly in a city like New York, where COVID-19 has truly affected many of the very neighborhoods because of density. And so as an organization, we've sort of prided ourselves on connecting kids to getting outside. Physical activity is key. The opportunity for kids to connect to the outdoors around freedom, space, trying new things. At the Fresh Air Fund, we've really understood and recognized that fresh air equals new experiences, new exposure to new things, curiosity, meeting new people in our model, whether it's our family host model where families become real sort of mentors, family style, or in our summer camping where counselors become role models in new ways. There's so much exchange that happens. And in this moment in time, we're really concerned that all of those great out of school time experiences are going to be lost. Whether it's the power of what our kids get to experience when they go hiking, or when they get to learn how to swim in a lake, kayak or boat. Some of those things are not going to be around this summer in its traditional form. We as an organization have, as we know it, have never canceled summer. And so this summer, although we won't be doing it in the same way, we're reimagining how we can engage young people in summer. And so some of the experiences for this year in particular of how we want to engage young people in connecting both to nature and to really adventure is to really reimagine what that looks like. And so we own beautiful property. Summer camps are in so many ways oases for young people, certainly for the young people we serve. So we're reimagining by connecting children and their families. So we're going to be operating and offering family camping to our kids and their families, so that actually the power of nature won't be just for the kids, but for the families as everyone stays in quarantine, to sort of in that unit. And all our services have been free for the past 140 years. And so we commit to that again for this summer as well. And we know that it'll respond to not just the mental health and wellness that our families and children need, but respond to some of that economic strain that's happening around food insecurity and really just about space and freedom. And what I think is so powerful about the outdoors that we all know, and perhaps as adults we know, is hope. The outdoors give us a space to breathe and to exhale and to really sort of see, as we all know, hope springs eternal. And so when you're outside, you can feel that. And the other thing that I think is really important around just this moment and the outdoors is the term adventure. Kids are going to play outside, and in urban communities, they're still going to go outside and play. And so what do we as providers creatively think we can do to facilitate perhaps more structured outdoor play, really understanding what's necessary? And so in New York City, there's a group of us really that have come together to think through, what do summer spaces look like? What do summer streets look like? How do we, in certain neighborhoods, create the opportunity for our kids to still be outdoors, to still experience adventure, more importantly, maybe not in nature, but maybe in our parks, right? Maybe recreating what those opportunities can look like. So the power of nature is real, and the Fresh Air Fund has committed to it for over 140 years, so we'll keep doing that. Thank you, Fatima. And I also want to just flag, all of us have access to parks through our local Parks and Rec associations, and they're ready and willing and able to help and kind of get kids those experiences that Fatima was talking about as well. But Fatima's camp is one of thousands of camps, part of the American Camp Association. And so, Lori, you've been researching the positive effects of camp experiences and the organization, by the way, we should note, has been around also for more than 100 years, but has a lot of insights to share and best practices to share with the whole education youth development field. So what have you seen that you think we could all learn from you, Lori?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. And I have to say, I'm excited and honored to follow Fatima. She really is an exemplar, her and her colleagues at Fresh Air Fund, an exemplar of all the wonderful work that camps have been doing for over a century and all the tremendous innovations that camps are really engaging right now in the face of COVID-19. My colleague Tom Rosenberg will tell you a little bit more about how ACA is responding to COVID-19 during the Q&A. But I would like to share a little bit about what we're learning through an ongoing research study. We're actually in year 4 of a 5-year longitudinal study with campers, parents, staff, and former campers. And a lot of what we're learning in this study will really kind of reiterate what Fatima already shared about Fresh Air Fund, but we'll also make the case for why we're working so hard in the face of COVID-19 to support summer camp experiences for all kids. We know through this longitudinal research that campers, parents, staff all report that what they learn at camp lasts for a lifetime. Camp is not a one-off experience. We know that they gain lasting outcomes in social emotional learning through day and overnight camp experiences. Most notable and really what we considered our true value add to the out of school time space is the opportunity to practice and gain relationship skills. Camp has a really kind of potent recipe for relationship skills, and that's primarily because day and overnight camp experiences tend to be organized in small groups and tend to be staffed with young, relatable staff members. We call these near peer others. So the mentorship relationship is truly unique and unlike anything that young people get in schools or in other contexts. So we know in our longitudinal research that young people gain relationship skills that they then apply to thrive in school, into college, into careers, and into adulthood. We also know that camp is a really potent context for peer interactions. Oftentimes, in both day and overnight camp experiences, kids are coming together from different schools, different neighborhoods, different backgrounds, and experiencing summer in small groups. And that opportunity to get to know people who come from these different places and with different backgrounds is really unique. And that's another thing that our former campers report using later in life. I want to address again that we serve both day and overnight camp experiences, and there are many similarities, but there are also unique needs that both of these contexts fill. We know that day camp experiences meet critical childcare needs for parents and give campers the opportunity to engage their unique interests in fun experiences, again, in these small groups, which really is unique to the camp context. We also know that day camps are incredibly potent contexts for physical activity. Kids attending day camp get far in excess of the recommended daily allowance of physical activity. And as others on the panels have stated, that day camps are also critical sites for summertime meals and critical nutrition services for young people. We estimate there are millions of children who attend day camps, either through Parks and Rec programs, agencies like the Y, Boys and Girls Club, Girl Scout programs, also independent day camps, and day camps on college campuses. So the impact on our day camps has been tremendous, but we know that our day camps are really thinking about how to serve that critical childcare need and the health and safety needs of campers this summer. Overnight camp experiences are very unique in themselves. We consider overnight camp experiences to be really rich and intentional experiences away from home. Sometimes these are just a couple of days, sometimes they're multiple weeks. Campers, parents, former campers all report that overnight camp experiences were critical to the development of personal responsibility and independence. The development of empathy and compassion for others, because yet again, you're having these rich experiences in small groups, often living and learning together overnight. And overnight camp experiences give people the opportunity to disconnect, not just from technology, but from some of the stressors and anxiety of home. The nature-based context sets the stage for not only that opportunity to disconnect, but be truly present. And so former campers report their overnight camp experience as a time where they truly felt in the moment, where they didn't have to worry about what was coming up, what was happening in the past, but could really be present to try new things, take on appropriate challenges, and connect with others in ways that they might not otherwise. I want to emphasize, and Fatima spoke so well to this, that the time in the outdoors really is critical all the time, especially now when our access to the outdoors is really constrained by COVID-19. We know that time outside lasts forever, and overnight and day camp experiences that involve connection to nature translate into a lifetime of both recreational interest in the outdoors and pro-environmental behaviors into adulthood.
Lori, thank you.
I'll stop there, but I'm really delighted to be on this panel with my colleagues who've spoken so well.
And thank you for all of that, and your organization's been such a great resource, and it's one thing that I just want to highlight is what you're talking about is community. Every camp is building a community, and that's something that we all need more than ever. And also the idea that even though you have facilities and wonderful camps that are focused primarily during the summer, in this time, they want to be partnering and be accessible to anybody working with students during the school year too, and that's going to be on the adults to kind of build those bridges. So now I would like to just ask Robin, you spoke a little bit earlier, but one of the things when we talk about community from the camps that Lori was mentioning and Fatima is how do we create that culture for kids that's special, that kind of rah-rah, gets everyone so excited, that makes it such a special time. And as we switch over to digital learning, how can programs still try and bring that culture and enthusiasm to the forefront?
Yeah, great. So Engaging Creative Minds is only 7 years old. So we're a baby in this field, but we engage kids in STEM learning through the arts to motivate and empower them in the classroom and summer at our 6-week Summer STEAM Institute, where positive relationships, high engagement, and attendance help us prevent summer learning loss and prepare kids for fall. The arts get kids excited and curious about these STEM concepts and keep them coming back for more. We like to say that our campers are having so much fun, they don't even know they're learning, and our results demonstrate that. I want to point out that last summer at a Title I school in downtown Charleston, we had 100% attendance. Not one camper dropped out, not even after the 4th of July. In addition to that, 95.3% of our campers experienced no summer learning loss. Of those students, 58.54% increased their reading scores. So how do we do that? By playing and having fun. Well, we won NSLA's 2016 Excellence Award because of our special sauce that combines a woohoo culture with robust theater, music, visual arts, and dance experiences that are directly aligned with weekly STEM themes. For example, during Chemistry Week, or during Merlin's Magic, students will learn about chemistry, or engineering for Invention Convention Week. And from early morning carpool right up until the last camper leaves, our woohoo spirit is engaging, often unexpected and fun. So when COVID-19 forced students to go online this spring, we knew there would be challenges for many students without access to technology and some who are just growing tired of being in front of a screen. In addition, our schools closed, so their facilities were not available to us this summer, creating a new opportunity to partner with cities and rec departments, as well as other nonprofits serving youth this summer. So this summer, we are going to distribute hands-on camp kits to as many students as possible. No technology or internet is required. So here's how it works. Every Monday at locations throughout the community, campers are going to receive their Create kits. And just like our morning carpool at our in-person camps, the delivery will be exciting. So we might hang kits from branches of trees or hide them at the end of a scavenger hunt. And the Create kits are driven by the same 3 key indicators of the success of our in-person camps. The first is strong attendance, because the arts support a woohoo culture. Healthy relationships are number 2, with our ongoing pen pal program and book clubs. And then 3, ongoing engagement during our Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in-person checkpoints with artists and staff. So ECM is also providing professional development for all camp staff so that everybody can woohoo, get out the bubbles and cheerleading pom-poms, and share arts integrated curriculum for grades K through 8. We want to ensure that our 3 goals are met, and to date, we are providing Create kits to about 350 campers each week in July. So what they include are fun materials like hula hoops, sidewalk chalk, model airplanes. We have flashlights to encourage reading at night, stationery with multicolored pens for our pen pal program, colorful paper for character trait origami to learn about geometry and visual arts, paint and clay for story illustrations to learn more about author's voice and theater, and of course the bubbles for fun exploration of surface tension and physics. So in addition to the kits, our team will embed fun and unexpected surprises throughout the summer. So we've partnered with local antique car clubs, running clubs, sororities, fraternities, cheer teams, high school and college athletics. They will all participate in drive-by or run-by socially distanced parades with signs holding messages with math challenges or story starters.
Hey, Robin, I'm sorry to cut you off. It's so great to hear, and your enthusiasm is contagious. I think we have a little video possibly to show.
Yes,
Scott?
so you guys can see it straight from our video. This is the latest and greatest that we worked on all weekend, so enjoy.
All right. Well, thank you, Robin. And again, one thing I think I want to just highlight is that Robin's program is a model program, but she can't be everywhere, and her team are ready to share their practices and whatever they've learned with as many groups as possible that are interested. Now, Bella, you know, a lot of kids going from camp get some of their first ever jobs being a counselor in training or being a counselor, but you are working with mayors and municipalities across the country to make sure thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of teenagers have paid jobs that are usually their first ever jobs. So can you talk about what some of those experiences are that cities are providing, and in this COVID-19 reality, how they're adjusting and coming up with some creative solutions to keep it happening?
Sure, Erin. Thanks for the question. Yes, this is such a critical time right now for young people to have these opportunities, and we're so challenged by this crisis. Excuse me. So local elected officials are very concerned about how this crisis is impacting their cities from a fiscal perspective, right? With cities being forced to slash budgets and furlough staff. And they're also really concerned about how it's affecting young people in terms of their learning, their safety, and their job opportunities. So the National League of Cities is working with cities to address all of the topics that we've talked about today, including connecting children to nature, early childhood, supporting opportunity youth, increasing access to meals. We have an active COVID task force really helping us to get blogs out on all these topics, but I'll focus on the jobs piece. So summertime is really that time when young people depend on this work to earn money for themselves and or for their families. And with this crisis and the high unemployment rates put a lot of extra stress on young people to help ends meet, especially our youth most in need, lower income youth and primarily youth of color. So this has been a time for them to learn new skills, get exposed to new careers, network and connect with employers, learn what an office environment is like, how to come to work on time, all of these things, right? How to work in teams and communicate. It's a really important career readiness and college prep opportunity. So the summer youth employment programs that we see in cities, they're funded by a mix of federal and local dollars, but they're usually run by cities and counties in partnership with other organizations. This pandemic has really shifted how cities have been delivering their programs, as many employers have pulled out as placement sites, and many city staff are not able to support these programs either because of these big cuts the cities have been forced to make. And thanks to Eric from the After School Alliance for mentioning, local governments really need this federal support to help ensure that they're able to keep running, right? With library staff, rec staff being furloughed, a lot of these staff help to support these summer youth employment programs as well. But we've surveyed our network of large cities and found that about 25 to 30% of cities have had to cancel their programs, like Milwaukee, Charleston County, South Carolina, Beaufort, North Carolina. Obviously, there's been a lot of news coverage about New York City's program that serves 75,000 students that they had to cancel, with a lot of advocacy from organizations to raise money to keep that program going. But overall, where it's safe, we see a lot of city officials that have remained committed to serving their youth population and are fighting hard to keep these resources in their budget to continue these programs and ensure youth get paid this summer. So we've seen in Memphis, Mayor Strickland was adamant about keeping their Employ initiative this summer. They have 1,700 students that they hire over the summer. It was a 6-week program in the past. They're going to have to make it 3 weeks, 2-week sessions of 3 weeks, where they're working with 14, 15-year-olds, high school students, opportunity youth, and college students. And they're partnering with their school system to have the teachers provide a virtual learning opportunity to teach workforce skills, some of those soft skills, not as technical hands-on skills that they may have gotten in an office environment, but all those other workforce skills. And their college is partnering with the teachers to help them with that virtual learning component. And the city is going to pay the students. So they've been remained committed to doing that. In Orlando, they had a virtual component already built into their summer youth employment. So they were able to pivot quickly to keep the program going and make it fully online. In Houston, City Council approved recently their $1.3 million for its Hire Houston Youth program, even though the city is facing a very large deficit. They served over 11,000 youth last summer. As we heard from Chris, Boston Mayor Walsh has been really committed to keep the program going and pay their students as well. Some creative things in Charlotte we've seen, Charlotte, North Carolina, the city's providing their youth with a stipend, about $1,300, and they have a partnership with LinkedIn Learning and Microsoft to teach students workforce skills and technical skills, such as the program found in Microsoft Suite. In Baltimore, YouthWorks 2020, they're operating a virtual summer jobs program for about 4,000 students. We'll use a web-based tool that includes job readiness, career exploration, financial literacy, academic enrichment, and skills training. So we're seeing a lot of interesting creative ways to enable young people to participate in these work experiences, still stay connected, gain those skills, definitely receive that paycheck. And it's just been so important to keep these programs going, making sure that young people are engaged, they're productive, they're gaining skills that will allow them entry into the workforce. So we just really see that it's a critical part of recovery for cities to ensure that young people have access to these job opportunities and are able to position themselves for the future when, cities and states do fully open up. Clearly cities are also concerned about public safety, and they see a tie-in to the work that young people are doing, as well as to the safety component. Students are working, getting paid, they're learning new things, meeting mentors, and really expanding their social capital, which is so critical for young people too. So as they're engaged in all of these things, public safety will also be in better shape as well. So
Thank you.
That's what I have for you.
Bella, thank you so much for lifting up those examples. And I just want to mention that summer learning as you get older is summer earning and summer jobs. That's what it looks like. They're learning through that work and their hands-on experience and making those connections again to school in so many ways. And that there might be more youth who don't have jobs right now, but as we are all struggling to come up with new ideas and new programs, that we should tap into them and figure out how can we partner and hire some of them this summer and going forward. So thank you, Bella, for all those great examples. I think now we want to open up to some questions that we have. And I'm going to bring on a colleague of Lori's, but all of ours, Tom Rosenberg, who is the CEO of the American Camp Association, joining us from Atlanta today. And Tom and his group have taken a real lead for the whole education youth development field on thinking through some of the safety issues and how to run programs in a COVID-19 environment. And so, Tom, if you can hear me, I can see you. Just want to ask you if you could just share a little bit about how ACA has been working closely with CDC and others and putting out guidance on how to make programs work with some of the social distance restrictions and other safety concerns we're all worried about.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks so much for having me, everyone. I'm so excited to be with you. So, kids today are facing increased isolation. They're facing growing anxiety and depression in this pandemic. And as program leaders, we all recognize that if you want a child to learn, they have to feel emotionally and physically safe. So in commissioning the field guide for camp and out-of-school time programs, the American Camp Association understood really early in this crisis how critical it would be for program leaders to really understand in granular detail all of the considerations and requirements needed to ensure that programs are as safe as possible in COVID-19. So released 2 weeks ago, or almost 2 weeks ago, the guide weaves together necessary guidance from the CDC, from the EPA, OSHA, NIOSH, the American Academy of Pediatrics, ASHRAE, and even the NCAA, along with expert knowledge from a panel of experts, scientific and medical experts, to address considerations around a whole wealth of concepts in out-of-school time. So, for example, communication with parents and students and participants, screening for and preventing COVID-19 infections, facility layouts, cleaning and sanitizing and maintaining those facilities, and all kinds of different equipment considerations, food service and deliveries, activities of all kinds, and also concepts around grouping, like smaller groups, rainy day activities, aquatics, specialized activities, guest policies, also things like how to appropriately socially or physically distance participants and staff members, PPE plans, supplies, transportation issues, and all kinds of logistics around pickup and drop off, and health concerns as well. So this 90-page document, it's a digital document, is a living document, and continues to be updated regularly, even now, as by the environmental health consulting firm that authored it. It provides critical, relevant educational resources for every single out-of-school time program across the United States, and I believe actually for K through 12, it has many helpful considerations as well. We're really pleased to make the guide available to everyone, and Aaron at NSLA and his team will be distributing it to all participants today and media in attendance today.
Thank you, Tom. And just a quick follow-up, we'll be making that available. But in terms of partnerships, one of the themes that we've all been talking about is how to connect the folks who work with young people during the school year with the folks who work with them during the summer. And how are you promoting partnerships between your camps and school districts and other out-of-school time groups focused more during the school year?
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, I think there are tremendous opportunities for collaboration across school time and out of school time, but I think it's particularly across out of school time, but I think it's particularly important to note the critical need for K-12 educators, out of school time, program leaders to collaborate in this pandemic. I've spent weeks working on this guide with the panel, and it's very obvious to me that due to small grouping limitations and a variety of other considerations you can read about in the field guide, our children will encounter a considerable amount of out of classroom time this year. And so how can everyone in out of school time work to assist K through 12 schools with perhaps AmeriCorps-like experiential education leaders to help classroom teachers reinforce educational concepts through fun project-based learning opportunities during this out of classroom time. Classroom time in classroom instruction time will be limited more than most people realize right now, and virtual school opportunities will be limited because parents will be heading back to work. So kids need to be supervised. So we need to find a way to partner as closely as we can to provide out of classroom learning experiences in conjunction with in classroom learning experiences. And I do believe that all of out of school time needs to be a part of this effort. It's a time for us to coordinate funding streams, to coordinate grassroots leadership and program ideas to collectively support every child's learning landscape all day long.
Thank you,
each
Tom.
and every day throughout this pandemic and beyond.
Perfect. Well, thank you for underscoring that critical point. So thank you, Tom, and thank you to those panelists we just heard from. And we're now going to throw it back to Joe, who's going to lead us through our final conversation.
Well, yeah, I mean, before we get there, I had a quick question or two. I mean, the first is, we're talking about a completely different landscape for camps and how they are operated. I mean, what do we need to know from a parent perspective, how that's going to change and what that means from parents?
Well, I think one thing that camps have always had to do is they have children in their, they're watching children 24/7, especially in the overnight settings. So they are treating kids as if they are their parents. And I think that's one of the things that we're all looking to them for, because they have just had more than 100 years of kind of history and experience around health and safety concerns. So I think parents want to know, number one, and as our conversation talked about, that their kids are going to be safe, no matter what, wherever they are, and they go back to work only knowing that their kids are in a safe place. And with the COVID-19, we need to be really adamant that we have figured out all those issues and considerations. I think that the ACA guide and plus the expertise of others will really kind of give that reassurance to parents that they'll be safe, they'll be taken care of, they'll be able to operate programs that are high quality, but making sure everyone is as safe as possible.
Yeah, that's very important. That's very important. And speaking of parents, that brings us to our next panel, which is to talk about how parents can navigate an uncertain and completely changed landscape, especially at a time where there are more demands on parents than ever. As many people in the audience might know, working from home, you're not only working from home, you're also teaching from home and making sure that your kids are staying safe and supervised. And for some families, it's more critical than just an inconvenience. You have families that don't have access to quality daycare, but parents who have to work. So here to address that, we've assembled a very fine panel, and we're going to have them introduce themselves, starting with Matthew Bolle. Matthew?
Thanks, Joe and Aaron, and good morning to everyone out there in video land. My name is Matthew Bolle. I'm the founder of the National Summer Learning Association. And for 25 years, we've been focused on summer programs and summer camps. What schools and community-based organizations and faith-based institutions and libraries are doing for kids in our communities. But those programs are under so much stress this year. And so my focus has really shifted to inside the home, to what parents can do. I had a parent recently say to me, I want my daughter to have a good summer, but what does that even mean? And I think that's a fair question for parents. What does a good summer even mean this year?
And next, I'd like to bring in David Park. David, introduce yourself and tell us what your organization represents.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Aaron and NSLA. I'm David Park. I'm the Senior Vice President for Strategy and Communications at Learning Heroes. Learning Heroes is a national nonprofit organization that supports parents and guardians as their child's most effective education advocate. And we do that first by listening to parents. So we've done a ton of qualitative and quantitative research, some of which I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. And we use that research to partner with organizations like NSLA and create communications for parents and guardians.
Fantastic. Now let's go to Jason King. Jason, introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, everyone. Jason King here. I run corporate communications and marketing for Clear Channel Outdoor. And just real quickly, Clear Channel Outdoor is one of the largest billboard companies in the world, and you see our inventory along roadsides. And we view ourselves as a connector between organizations and communities, which is really why we're a part of this discussion. And we've been a partner to the National Summer Learning Association for about 4 years now. So just really humbled to be a part of this discussion and be amongst these panelists today to share more about how the corporate sector is working to keep kids educated over the summertime.
Excellent. And of course, last but not least, Dan Tew. Dan.
Morning, everybody. My name's Dan Tew. I'm Director of Marketing here at Khan Academy. Khan Academy is a nonprofit with a mission to provide a world-class education to anyone, anywhere. And we've been doing that for the last 10 plus years by creating resources from pre-K through elementary school, middle school, and high school, covering courses in ELA, humanities, math, sciences, and more. And our courses combine instructional videos, practice exercises, and articles. And we provide tools that identify learning gaps and provide immediate feedback for our learners. And this is all available online and free for parents, learners, and teachers. And we serve millions of learners around the world. And I am also honored to be joining such a distinguished panel. So thank you all.
Well, we're happy to have all of you. And it's good to see you. Let's start the discussion with David. David, Learning Heroes conducted a survey of parents, and the results indicate that there's an opportunity here to redefine the relationship between families and their schools. Give us an overview and tell us about that.
That's right, Joe. We're excited that we just came out of the field this year with our annual survey of parents and guardians. It's 3,600 parents and guardians, so it's a nationally representative survey. We had oversamples of African American and Hispanic parents, and we also did the survey in both English and Spanish. And again, we just got the results, and we're excited to see that parents are activated, and they're going to show up differently next school year. They report spending about 2.5 hours per week supporting their child's schoolwork. Almost 7 in 10 say they are more connected to their child's day-to-day learning than they've ever been. And again, more than 7 in 10, 71% say they have a deeper appreciation for teachers. So of course, it's an incredibly challenging time, especially as you mentioned, for families who are juggling so much right now, but they're also really leaning in. So how do we tap into that for our work with parents and with kids and with families over the summertime? The second insight that we found is that parents really deserve a complete and accurate picture of where their child is academically. For 5 years in a row now, we found that 9 in 10 parents, or 90% of parents, think their children are at or above grade level in reading and math. And in reality, if you look at national data, the NAEP scores, it's more like 37% of kids are at that level. So there's a huge disparity between what parents think in terms of their child's achievement and progress and where their kids actually are. And so again, this is an opportunity. This year was actually higher. 92% of parents think their child is at or above grade level. So we believe that this is an opportunity over the summertime to help parents have a more accurate and complete and holistic picture of their child's achievement and think of fun and free ways in their community to learn and to get the support those kids need. And finally, the other insight is this is a time to redefine relationships, specifically relationships between families and schools, relationships that are grounded in a shared understanding of a child's progress and achievement. So where does this leave us in terms of summer? On June 15th, together with the National Summer Learning Association, as well as the National PTA, we're going to be releasing, and you can go to our website, bealearninghero.org. It's bealearninghero.org. You'll find both the research as well as this new communication that we're releasing for parents called Summer Stride. Not Summer Slide, but Summer Stride. This is an opportunity to really help parents and engage them even more in their child's education to help them have a better understanding of what their child is expected to learn every year. One of the things that we link to is the readiness check. And that's a way, 3 to 5 questions in English and math. It's fun, it's like a game, and everything is free for parents. And it gives parents a gut check to help them understand where their child is right now academically and what supports they need throughout the summer and into the next school year.
Wow, that sounds very exciting. Next, let's turn to Dan. Dan, the recent NWEA report projects huge impacts because of COVID-19 and the premature shutdown of schools heading into the summer. Khan Academy, as you've mentioned, is one of the leaders in education and in trying to bridge that gap. Tell us what the approach is that you're taking this year, your company is taking this year, and what kind of impact do you think it will have on education going forward?
So thank you for that question. First, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the significance of that report. I think at the beginning of the crisis, we all recognized that this was kind of an unprecedented and less than ideal learning condition for everyone. And we would expect some learning loss. And so in addition to the normal summer slide, we are kind of expecting a COVID-19 slide. And in this case, the NWEA projections are eye-opening, potentially up to a year of learning loss in math and only moderately better in reading and language arts. And so we're cognizant that this will also likely disproportionately impact families who are underserved. And so the solution to this problem, as David mentioned, is really going to be a collective effort. And so it's really heartwarming to hear that parents are really going to be activated to help engage in this process. So let me speak to...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, so let me speak a little bit to how Khan Academy is addressing this challenge. So number one, we're building all new courses to help learners start their next grade level strong. And we're calling them Get Ready for Grade Level. And each of these math courses will contain the most important prerequisite skills for the upcoming grade. So if you're in your upcoming grade is 6th grade, they'll have all of the main skills that will be required to be successful and be ready for that course. And then to David's research study showing that parents are perhaps overestimating how ready their children are, part of these courses include a course challenge at the beginning where you can actually kind of evaluate the gaps that your child may have and if they are indeed ready for the next grade. And these will all be ready next month. And then in addition to that, we're wrapping that around with a summer learning campaign where we're making that the foundation of the campaign, but we're wrapping it around with non-academic content. So we're including things like growth mindset, motivation, and reflection prompts. And the goal is to create an engaging campaign that helps learners prepare for the upcoming grade. And that will be available next month and run through the summer. And then secondly, we created a slew of resources for remote learning during the past few months. And although those were designed during the school session, they're equally applicable for the summer as well. And so we created a website to house all of those remote learning resources. You can find them at khanacademy.org. And we also launched a US Spanish language version, khan.co/sigamos aprendiendo. And really, although our core content is already available in Spanish, this is really adapting remote learning resources for Spanish-speaking families in the US. And those microsites really contain 3 core pieces of information to help parents. The first is providing structure. That's probably the number one thing we heard from parents, really structure with daily schedules as well as math learning plans that help provide weekly guidance. And then the second most requested things were tips and advice. So we launched over 40 webinars for teachers and parents, and they include things like, how do I know where my kids are in their subjects? Or what if I don't know what topic they're on? How can I help my child? And then the last piece is really community. So we have daily homerooms with Sal, and really that's a live stream AMA with Sal hosting special guests, including folks like Bill Gates and Angela Duckworth, and they're covering relevant topics of the day. And that's, again, really to address the community aspect that's missing during this time. And so we'll be adding a lot more new resources as we progress through the summer. So that's kind of how we're starting to tackle the problem.
Well, it sounds like it's an impressive wellspring of information so parents can tell what they're working with. Dr. Boulay, I want to turn to you now. You've been at this for some time, some 25 years. You're also a parent and a veteran of Teach Baltimore, as well as a U.S. Marine. Hard to tell which one is more difficult in those sets of circumstances, but we thank you for your service in the military. We understand that you've also got a new book that lists some of the resources, or can be a valuable resource itself for parents. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, thanks, Joseph. Really the question I was struggling with is what does it look like inside of a family's home for a parent who might be working, taking care of children, maybe older parents or older adults as well, and doesn't have much access to camps or programs because of social distancing and the restrictions. And I think there are 3 or 4 things that might be most helpful for parents. One is, before we even get to questions of learning and summer learning loss, parents are most concerned with how to take care of their children, how to keep them healthy. And so thinking about the whole child and resources that we in the field can provide to parents about the whole child. Social and emotional learning is going to be so important this summer. Connecting with children and making sure they're feeling okay and feeling loved and protected. Part of supporting the whole child is thinking about structure and routine in their daily lives. So without the structure of school, what is their wake up and sleep schedule look like? When are meals provided? And so there's that whole child approach. And then we get to questions of learning. And I think the most important idea is that summer learning is not summer school. Parents don't have to teach our children trigonometry and advanced chemistry and conversational French this summer, right? It's about keeping your kids actively engaged, hopefully reading every day, hopefully finding fun ways to practice math. But as you're doing that, and this is my third point, have the learning be as child-centered and child-driven as possible. It's important to talk to the teachers, classroom teachers, but this is not about giving kids, homework assignments and workshops. This is about helping kids find that spark of imagination, that creativity that will really allow them to be excited about their own learning.
Right. Organic learning.
And then the last thing I would say is there's so much stress out there for all of us that parents need to make time to take care of parents, to take care of themselves. Take care of themselves so they can keep their children safe and happy, healthy over the summer.
Well, that's a very important point that a lot of parents don't necessarily factor into these equations because there's so much pressure on everyone. And camps are as much of a respite for parents in some ways as they are for the children, and ways for them to learn. But a lot of this, as we talked in earlier sessions, centers around funding. And Jason, you understand that summer learning programs have had to be creative and had to partner with some people that might be kind of unlikely in other circumstances, but now it's made for some very good partnerships. Talk about yours.
Hey, thanks, Joseph. And I want to say one more note to all the panelists here today. On behalf of all of Clear Channel's employees, I just want to thank you for all the work that you're doing to help inform parents everywhere this summer and beyond summer how we can help keep our kids learning, help keep our kids healthy, and then help keep our kids earning all summer long and as they go throughout the year. And Joseph, your point is exactly right. And so for us, and I said this in the beginning, we view our role as in the corporate sector as really being a connector between organizations and their communities. And so in years past, we've worked quite closely with NSLA, also with NLC, and After School Alliance as well, to help drive awareness for the programs that are in the local communities across the U.S. And so we've done that over the last few years, but this year it's obviously going to be a little bit different, which is part of why we're having this conversation today. And so we have a piece of creative, if you want to go ahead and tee that up. So we're going to be launching a new campaign this summer, and we're going to pivot the focus of our campaign just a bit within SLA this year, because our goal is going to be a little bit different. The goal this year is going to be to help raise money to actually support the quality programs that are out there, for programs that may be dealing with a financial crisis or maybe they're shifting their model to serve their constituencies and their communities and the kids in a different way, perhaps even recognizing and helping to contribute to some of the past NSLA award-winning programs. And so what you see on the screen is really an awareness of what's coming soon this summer and how we'll be working to help support communities and kids by driving a fundraising effort for these valued organizations for the work that they're doing. So we're thrilled to be a part of it. We're humbled to be here as a part of this discussion today, and look forward to launching this campaign in the summer.
Well, and we appreciate the work that you've been doing. I want to say thank you to our panelists, Matthew Boulay, Jason King, David Park, and Dan Tew. Thank you so much for the insight and for giving parents and educators some clues where to look for support and how to get things going. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Aaron, yeah, we heard a lot in there about how important programs are for kids, how the funding model is going to change a little bit, and how there are tools out there that can help parents measure whether or not their children are on grade level and progressing as they need to be, which is going to be huge given the fact that we've had such disruptions in school.
Absolutely. This is an all hands on deck moment, as we keep reiterating, and it's going to take partnerships between parents, programs, policymakers, business community, nonprofit, government sector, everyone trying to be as coordinated as possible and as seamless as possible to give kids the experiences they deserve.
Right, and when everything changes, that's also an opportunity to change everything, I think one of the panelists said. So this is, in crisis comes opportunity, and hopefully a lot of these programs will be able to take advantage of that and become better for it on the back end.
Absolutely, and that's what's nice about this whole event we're having today, because it doesn't stop here with this conversation. We hope that this will lead to partnerships and people picking up the phone and emailing and reaching out to one another to be, hey, I heard you mention this on the webinar. How can I work with you? How can I bring that experience and resource to the families and the kids I serve?
Excellent, excellent.
So now I think we're going to wrap up. I'd like to bring Tom Rosenberg back in. Again, just to help us with some closing remarks. Tom, on behalf of the entire camping world and everyone else you're trying to reach outside of that community, what are your final thoughts and challenges you'd like to give to our audience?
Well, thanks, Aaron. I think we all know summer camps and other out-of-school time programs are more necessary than ever before. The real challenge before us is to figure out how to bring those experiences to every young person in America who wants it, really every single one. This traumatic time really calls for more coordination, more collaboration, and greater investment in children and youth than ever before. I want to see us all take the lessons and recommendations from the National Academy's consensus report and the best practices offered in the Field Guide for Camps and Out-of-School Time programs that we published with YUSA, and apply time and funding and coordination that's necessary going forward to integrate camps with schools, after school, and other programs to make sure that we have a holistic and, as you said, seamless way of giving all of our kids, not just those who can pay out of pocket, all of our kids the variety of services and safe and nurturing experiences that they need to learn to thrive and grow up as amazing adults. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, Tom. And thank you to all our panelists. And I just want to reiterate, thank you to all the partners and presenters we had. There was a lot, and it just shows you how many adults, caring adults we have in this country who are going to take care of kids no matter what they need. And to all our sponsors and partners as well. We'll be making all the resources that were mentioned available and be sending them out to anyone who's registered, and just putting them on our various websites of our own and our partners' websites. But like you heard, whether it's going to be the Learning Heroes document coming out, the ACA guide, the federal funding guide, and also I want to mention another resource. The Mott Foundation has been a huge partner and supporter of many of us in our entire out-of-school time field, and they have just developed a free new app called Mizzen, M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and if you go to mizzen.org, that'll be available to programs and staff, and it has lots of curriculum and tips and resources that everyone can access, and it's from vetted partners like NASA and Jazz at Lincoln Center and others, with fun, creative activities that parents can use, students can use, staff can use. So that's another additional resource. NSLA is offering free webinars a couple times a week with trying to lift up best practices and examples that people can come to if you go to our Voices of Summer webinar series. And also something coming up in July will be National Summer Learning Week, a chance for us to spotlight all the creative and effective practices that so many of us are trying to do and highlight for leaders and policymakers and the media what is really happening during this crisis and what are the creative pivots that people are making. And so what I'll just add is what I heard throughout is something that's so unique and special about summer, but that it is applicable to all of us during this crisis, which is the need to focus on improvement. Summer is a time when staff and students are able to hone in on where their weak spots are and work at it and practice and get better for the coming year. And again, that goes for young people, but also adults who use summer for professional development. And so this is a whole time for us to rethink how we work and how we can get better. It's also a time for innovation. We've heard of so many great new ideas that maybe haven't been done before, but this is our chance to experiment, test things out before we scale, before we've taken school-wide, district-wide, community-wide, or nationwide. It's also a time for integration, and we've been hammering home that point that during the school year we're all so busy. Everyone wants to work together, but rarely do we ever have the time and headspace to do it. But necessity is the mother of invention, and it requires us to be more collaborative than we've ever done before. And finally, what I heard is about real deep impact, a chance to solve challenges at the personal level, that the experiential learning we're doing is immediate and lasting, but that it also affects entire communities, and that this is a solvable challenge. Summer learning loss can be solved, and the COVID-19 learning loss can be solved if we all band together. And that's one thing we've always seen in America, that whenever things get tough, when people come together, we actually can solve any challenge before us. None of us alone have all the answers, but together with the panel and the partners that we heard from, I think we actually do collectively have all the answers and can keep putting kids first and making the impact we want to see in their lives. So thank you to everyone who's joined us today. We look forward to working with you and supporting you and making this summer still impactful and wonderful for kids, and then to make that impact last for the coming year as well. Thank you, everyone.